Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this show. Welcome to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet for Marketing for Law Firms podcast. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and we've got a classic episode today. One of my favorite episodes of all time. This is called the Law Firm Rainmaker Playbook. And we call it that because rainmakers are the kind of people who rain business down on their law firms and their ad agencies too. And these are the kind of people who bring in business. And one of the frustrations I hear all the time from attorneys is that the young lawyers don't know how to bring in business. And so we got some superstar experts, some really, really top class experts who are great rainmakers. Today, you're going to hear from Ken Hardison, who built 2 multi-million-dollar law firms, sold those law firms, and now he teaches lawyers through PILMA, the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. He teaches them through these masterminds and great, amazing conferences how to build your book of business and how to become a rainmaker. The second expert we have, you don't want to miss this guy, Steve Nudelberg. He's one of my great friends, and he's built a huge, amazing business, teaching people how to build their personal brand and how to really use social media to build your business. So today you're going to learn like LinkedIn secrets and how to build a network and a funnel of people who are going to send you referrals on a regular basis from one of the best in the world. And last, but certainly not least, my friend Alan Margulius is a real rock star expert on training young attorneys. He's actually been hired to train young attorneys on how to build their book of business. So he's got a whole method that we learn here today. So listen up, stay tuned. If you want to see the guys with some of the slides, you can go to our YouTube channel and search for the Law Firm Rainmaker Playbook. And you can, while you're there, please give us a subscription to YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we'd love a 5-star review while you're at it. But without further ado, let's learn how to make it rain and get traffic and business and referrals and leads to our firm. Whatever business you're in, you're going to love this podcast. Enjoy.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. This is the Law Firm Rainmaker Playbook. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and you'll meet the panelists in just 1 minute. I first wanted to talk about what is a rainmaker. And if you saw the movie or read the John Grisham book, The Rainmaker, this young attorney becomes a rainmaker, meaning he starts getting his own clients for a firm, and then he generates his own firm, creates his own firm, and does very, very successfully because he can bring in clients. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary says a rainmaker is either a person who attempts to produce rain by artificial means, or for our purposes today is a partner in a law firm or a business who can bring in new business. Also a person whose influence can initiate progress or ensure success. And so if you're starting a business, or if you're a young attorney or a young professional of any kind, we've got 3 world-class experts today to teach you how to make it rain for your business, how to get business into your business, how to get business while you're still working and billing hours or doing whatever it is you have to do. So my name is Jay Berkowitz. I come from a place called Winnipeg, Canada, one of the coldest places on earth and one of the most beautiful places in the summer. And I got smart. My wife and I moved to Boca Raton. There's our dog Parker. And early in my career, I worked for McDonald's restaurants. I worked for the ad agency. And then I had a job as the director of marketing for McDonald's. And after that, I got lucky. I came straight to ediets.com. And that's when I moved to Florida. I went from selling some of the most delicious high-fat food in the world to losing about 10 pounds, working all day, every day with fitness nutritionists and focusing on diets. While I was at eDiets, I was asked to write a presentation and present at the Direct Marketing Association. And I wrote a presentation called the 10 Golden Rules of Online Marketing. And 10 Golden Rules has become my signature presentation. I guess we're not seeing the slides. Sorry, I just got a note. we go. And I created this presentation called the 10 Golden Rules of Online Marketing. And that presentation became the name of my company when people asked me to do consulting, and we became an internet marketing business 17 years ago. Today, we're an internet marketing agency focused on helping law firms and other professional services organizations. We work with firms all across the country. Here's a new website we just created for Stewart & Stewart in Indianapolis, Indiana. And like I say, we're sort of focused and specialized on law firms. But today we're here to help you make it rain. We've got an awesome panel, including Ken Hardison, Steve Nudelberg, and Alan Margulius. And you'll meet those folks in just 1 minute. So here's my take on Rainmaker. And the first principle of being a great Rainmaker is to give with no expectation of receiving anything in return. So I spend as much time as I can just trying to help people and just trying to be a giver. I was on the app Nextdoor, and one of my neighbors was looking for a plumber. My buddy Kirk Kyle has a great plumbing company. I connected him, and it gave me great joy to see Kyle's Plumbing out in front of my house. Here's a guy I met in an online group, and he was looking for someone for his board of directors. And I recommended my friend Richard Kane. This company was looking for a florist. This individual is looking for someone to edit their company's Wikipedia page, and I connected them with someone. Someone looking for window treatments. This guy who sells sophisticated hospital medical plans. I connected him with my buddy. Here's someone who wanted help with a home inspector. My friend is one of the top predictive index guys in the country, helping you hire great people. And on. I think you get the point. But the position here is that a great Rainmaker gives with no expectation of anything in return. You want to be a connector. Be that I got a guy or I got a gal, and give with the law of reciprocity, where you're not expecting anything in return, but I promise you it comes back to you. And it's great when you're top of mind, when people think of you as the person who can help, the person who can connect, the person who can make things happen. The second sort of philosophy I have as a Rainmaker is that your network is your net worth. And the more things I'm involved in, the more great things that come back to me in my business. For example, I'm a member of a group called the Strategic Forum. It's a CEO networking group based in New York and Florida. But I'm also based very locally in my BNI group, which are local networking groups. And it's fantastic to have people on a national scale who can help your friends and business associates out, and have a local plumber, a local air conditioning company through BNI. I'm involved in one of the largest lawyer marketing associations, and I participate in my local FLN, Florida Lawyers Network. I'm involved with a group called the Internet Old Timers, and that's been over 10 years, and some of the most influential people in internet and internet marketing and publishing are in that organization. And I'm an advisor for a locally based international startup. I'm on a board of directors, and I participate in an online book club. By the way, we just read this book. It's about America's Banana King. It's called The Fish That Ate the Whale. And it's a really fascinating story of how an immigrant created this multi-million-dollar banana company. But seriously, it's being involved in all these things that helps me make all these touch points. And then the more you give, the more you get. So the more I participate in boards of directors or get involved in organizing events and organizations, I get people looking to me for help. Now, by the way, all of these organizations are looking for help. And it's a great idea to go to any of these organizations that you're interested in, that are in your industry, and see if they need some volunteers. And if you volunteer and help with an event, next thing you'll end up on the board. I always recommend start with a skill set. So I was a marketing guy. I started on marketing. And then eventually I took different roles, maybe a finance role, or maybe writing press releases, because I was more of a business marketing guy. And I learned how to write press releases. So Rainmakers build relationships. They connect with people. And the last person you want to be is that guy at a networking event who's handing out as many business cards as possible. Now, nobody's doing networking events, but really it's not about making as many connections as possible. It's making quality connections. And a quality connection starts with a one-on-one. And so every time I'm in a networking group or any of these Zoom meetings, I look for 2 or 3 people who look really interesting. They look like they're connectors. They look like they're, a part of the organization or something. And hopefully they have something to do with my business, or I can help their business. And I send them a little note. Hey, can we connect for a one-on-one? And Steve Nudelberg, who's coming up in the presentation today, we did a little one-on-one, a virtual meeting, a virtual coffee, if you will. In the old days, we used to go to Starbucks, and now we do it by Zoom. And when you get to know someone, when you know, like, and trust someone, you really build a relationship with them. So your network is your net worth. Again, give with no expectation of getting anything in return. Join powerful groups. Become the I got a guy, I got a gal. And do these Zoom one-on-one meetings, because that's where you build a relationship with people. And that's where you start to really connect and really understand how you can help them. Immediately follow up on everything you said you'd do, and the goodness will come to you in return. The final piece is just sort of expanding on that building of relationships. These Zoom coffees have become very, very powerful for me. And the reason we're here today is what I call thought leadership. And what we're doing is we're doing a webinar. It's a thought leadership webinar. And I've written my 4 books, so that helps me become a thought leader. I speak at conferences, but we're not doing that anymore. So now we're doing these webinars. Ken's a great example. I mean, you're going to hear from him in a minute. He wrote a number of books on legal marketing. He used to run some of the biggest conferences. I assume now they'll shift to running some of the biggest Zoom conferences in the entire industry. And he also runs masterminds. And so he's become known as a thought leader about running a law firm and legal marketing. Steve Nudelberg, who you'll meet in a few minutes, runs a daily huddle every morning at 8 a.m. He's firing up salespeople and firing up his salespeople. 300, 400, 500 people are on these Zoom and Facebook lives. And then in the afternoon, he interviews someone for his live with Nudelberg. It's called Tell Me Something Good. And he interviewed me on his podcast. Here's an example of a young woman who just started once a week teaching a yoga class. It's called Yoga with Adrian. Now she has over 8 million subscribers to her YouTube channel and probably makes over $1 million a year just from people watching those videos and seeing the ad at the start of the video. My buddies, the Nathanson brothers, send out a video every single week, but it's that religious attention to every single week, sending out a video, that they come top of mind when I'm thinking of a mortgage guy or a real estate guy. My friend Chris Ream did a series of training on LinkedIn. He's a life insurance guy who really mastered LinkedIn, and now he's sharing his expertise on LinkedIn. My friend Bruce Turkel gets his blog out every single week. Every single week he sends out a blog post, and he's become such an expert on branding that he's regularly appearing on national TV talking about branding. I mentioned the webinars, and you guys, everyone who showed up here today got an email about the webinar, and we are doing these every single month, and it's thought leadership. It's sharing our expertise and my panelists' expertise on different topics. We send out the email, we post on all our company's social media, and then I post it on my personal social media. And we send out 3 emails before the webinar and 1 email after the webinar with the recording. And that gives us the ability to communicate and be top of mind as thought leaders about legal marketing. Here's the final tip I'll share with you. And this is kind of like the secret sauce that works really, really well for turning this kind of marketing into business opportunities. So when you registered for the webinar, you got to a thank you page. On the thank you page, it said, if you can't wait for the webinar to learn about our topic today, click here to schedule a strategy session. And I'm using a software that I absolutely love. It's called Calendly. And it lets people click and see my calendar and book a meeting, and it automatically sets up a Zoom meeting, sends an email to you, and sends an email to me and locks it in on my calendar. And every single month, I'm getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 leads from these webinars because of this technology. And it's super simple. And by the way, I absolutely love Calendly, highly recommend it. I also use that software every time I meet someone that's interesting that I want to connect with on LinkedIn or wherever. I just send them my Calendly link and say, hey, set up a meeting. Let's get together. Let's have a one-on-one. So to summarize the great strategies of thought leadership, number one is creating great content. You saw a range of different things. You don't have to do everything. You just have to pick one. My buddy Bruce Tickell writes one blog a week. The Nathanson brothers record one video a week. Ken Hardison's all over awesome content with books and seminars and mastermind groups. But start with one thing that you're comfortable with. Create content and then calendarize it. Send it out on a regular basis, once a week, once a month, like our webinars. Whatever you do, stick to it. Cascade the content. That's what we talk about with the email becoming the social media. And start with one piece of content. It goes on your blog or your website, and then drop it on all your social media. It's like a river cascades down into a waterfall. And finally, Calendly is an awesome tool for setting up meetings, appointments, and events. So without further ado, I'd like to get to my first speaker. Ken Hardison was a PI, a personal injury lawyer, for 35 years. He built and sold 2 law firms. He's recognized as a top 100 trial lawyer and $1 million advocate, which means he's got really, really significant recognition from the industry. He's a founder of PILMA, the Powerful Innovative Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. And as I mentioned, I've spoken at his conferences, and they are the awesome leadership conferences for legal marketing. And he's known as a millionaire maker because of his ability with these masterminds to get law firms to $1 million to $10 million and above. So without further ado, let me switch over to Ken's presentation. Here we go. Ken, let's make sure you have audio.
Yep, I think so.
Stuff. So stop the presentation. No, it's still not. All right, Ken, make it rain.
All right. So I'm going to talk today about referral systems. I do want to say one thing. That was a really good presentation, Jay, and it reminds me of something a gentleman told me, one of my mentors years and years ago. If you give people what they want, you'll get what you want, you know? And it goes with like giving without expecting. And I think that's, it's got a lot to do with what I'm going to talk about today. That's kind of like the premise or the basis or the foundation of what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about some referral systems. I actually do a presentation where I go through 15 different referral systems, but with the time limitation, I'm just going to pick like the top 4 or 5 that I have used and my members use and my coaching clients use to get a pretty steady pipeline of referrals. So here's the referral rule, and this is what studies have shown, is that 20% of your people that you know or past clients will refer your business even if you don't do anything, if you don't ask them or whatever, just raving fans. And 20% of them will never refer to you, no matter if you got them $10 zillion or you know, made them, you know, whatever. But the 60% of people would refer you some business. And if you create a referral system and educate them on how to refer people, people just don't know how to do it. And number one, they got to know that you want it. So another rule is I think you got to be referable. And what I mean by this is would you, if your mother or your son, no matter what kind of lawyer, if you're a domestic lawyer, if they were getting divorced, would you hire your law firm? If they got hurt in a bad accident, lost a leg, would they hire? Would you be comfortable sending them to your law firm? And if you don't, then you got a problem. And also, if your Google Plus ratings, Google business ratings, if you don't have a lot of testimonials and at least like a 4.7 or better on your business page, your Google business page, then you got a problem. So you got to be referable. And I think client service is a must. You know, it just, everybody assumes that lawyers are going to do a good job. And for the most part, that's true. There's exceptions to every rule, but you know, you went to law school, you took the bar exam, you're supposed to know what you're doing. So the big deal is client service. People want to be treated with respect and dignity and as a human being. So I think also you got to get in your law firm, you got to get the referral mindset. I think clients prefer to meet you through word of mouth, other than just trying to look you up on the websites. And everyone in your firm must understand that referrals are the most cost-effective way to acquire new clients. And then the other thing that I think people forget, and they do not market to their past clients, they're more worried about how can I spend some money up front on the front end, try to get people that don't know who I am. And Jay hit it right on the nail on the head when he said people are going to do business and refer people that they know, like, and trust. That's just the bottom line. So who better than your past clients that you did a good job for and know you and like you and trust you, hopefully. But then there's another element to this, and I think most lawyers never think of this. A lot of businesses do, but I don't think law firms do, is you can't look at just a client as a one-time shot. You need to think about them at what's the lifetime value of a client. I mean, what you would hope is that a client would refer you over the next 10 years, 2 to 5 new cases, maybe even more. And so you need to think about that. And when you're representing them, you need to create that referral mindset of doing, I call it under promising and over delivering, being very client centric, informing them, keeping in contact with them. Number one complaint to the state bars across the country is that lawyers don't return calls. They don't keep their clients informed on what's going on with their case. And that's so easy. But like I said, I think you got to have an attitude of under promising and over delivering, and always look for opportunities to ask for referrals, because sometimes they think you're so busy that you don't want any business. All right. So why would somebody give you a referral? Everybody always thinks because they're going to try to help you, but really, and it's like Jay was saying, what he does with all his friends, people love to be helpful to their friends and family. And they want to be, because people are just nice and they want to do that thing. Not everybody, but at least 80% of the people. And then they want to help you because they trust you and like you and they know you're going to do a good job. Okay. So let's go over these 5 proven and tested referral systems. Okay. Number 1 is set up a client advisory board. This is one that probably a lot of you never heard of. So when you're in a business, you see business people all the time get asked to be on the bank's advisory board of directors, and they really have no power. But what it is, it's a thing to where it gives them some status. It makes them feel important, and that hopefully the bank gets this big business person's deposits and gets to do business with them. Well, this is the same type of deal. You want to go back to your past clients and past referral sources and set up a client, I call it a past client advisory board. And in PILM, I've got the whole thing set out. We don't have time today, but the gist of it is this is psychology of it, is you want to bring them in and like every quarter, bring them in, serve them dinner at some restaurant, give them about a 3-question questionnaire and see how you're doing. And then you want to encourage them to, and then publicly announce, thank them in public in front of their peers for referrals. You want to ask them how the ones that they have referred, are they happy with you? And then what you want to do is you want to create a VIP card, a client advisory board VIP card, and set it up with a number that's not unlisted, give it an unlisted number, and give these people, 10, 20, 30 of them, and tell them when they leave the meeting, the dinner, when you see somebody that needs my services, give them this card and tell them this is a backdoor number to get in so you don't have to go through all the red tape, and then have that phone number going to somebody it can be your cell phone, it can be your office managers, it can be your head paralegal, whoever you know is going to be able to handle that call and give them great client service and close the deal to sign them up as a new client for your firm. Okay. Newsletters and holiday cards. Here's the whole I see a lot of lawyers give up on newsletters too quick. It takes about a year for this to grab hold of. And I think it works better if you at least send one out every other month. I think that the paper ones are more important than the email ones because only at tops 20% of emails get open. And can you go back? And so the whole premise on this thing is top of mind awareness. So by doing the holiday cards, I used to do a Valentine's Day card to my clients, a Thanksgiving card, a July 4th card, and then in between I would sprinkle in every other month the newsletter. So what this does is top of mind awareness. All lawyers think that their past clients remember them forever, and that's just not true. I wish it was, but it's not. And so when you're on top of mind awareness, when they see somebody or their friends or family get hurt, if you do injury law or if they get into a divorce or get into a traffic ticket, you're going to be on the top of their mind, okay? You can also, this is one thing I did, check it with your state bar, but get that referral mindset. I had a contest, and you can do it either quarterly, annually, biannually. I did it annually and paid the top 3 places from referrals from our staff, and that generated, the last year I did it, it generated 48 new cases. And basically what I did, I give them a week off and a full paid vacation to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because I had a condo down there. Then the second place, I give them something else and whatever, but you get the gist. A fourth thing is something that's really overlooked, and let me tell you, this will help generate more referrals. You need to write handwritten thank you cards and take your logo, get a printer to set it up, and put your logo on it, and then a little thank you, and you can write about 3 sentences. Thank you for referring John Doe. A referral is the biggest compliment you can ever give us. I give a law firm, and we appreciate it, and we'll do everything we can to help Joe in his case. And then you send it to them. And when you do that, you're going to know that that person knows you appreciate it because they know you're busy if you took time to handwrite it. And you don't have to, I usually just handwrite it, give it to the secretary. She fills out the envelope, send it to them. Because here's what happens. If you don't acknowledge this, they'll quit sending them to you because they think you don't really give a damn and you don't care, you don't appreciate it. So take the time to do this. It will pay dividends tenfold, I promise you. All right. And then this is, I just think a book, and one of the books I wrote is how to build a practice with a book. I wrote 7 different consumer books for every little different niche I had that I did. This one was for car wrecks or whatever. But I can tell you that there's a lot of ways to leverage a book because it makes you an authority, the go-to person, the expert. But here's how you leverage it to get referrals. Every new client I had, I would give them 2 or 3 of my books, and I would say, when you see somebody that's been hurt, give them this book and tell them this is the lawyer I use. So 2 things happen there, or 3 things. Number one, it makes it real easy for your client and your past clients to break that. It's an icebreaker. So it makes it easy for them to refer you. And that's what I said at the beginning. If you can figure out a system that makes it easy and show them how to do it, because they just don't know how to broach the subject. And so I would give them 2 or 3 books at the beginning, and then when the case closed, I give them 2 or 3 more books. And these books do all the selling for you if they're done properly. And when they say they're books, they're like 50, 60 pages. They're not War and Peace or anything like that. And also, I would give them out in the advisory when I had my advisory board, I would also give them the card, but also give them 3 or 4, maybe 10 books, and tell them to give them both those things. So you give them a VIP card plus a book, and I can promise you that these are going to generate more and more referrals and new cases. I can promise you. So I wanted to offer. I wrote a book. We were talking about systems. This was an Amazon bestseller. I've written several books, but this is the one that probably was my most popular book. And it's only like 140 pages. It's not a real. It's a pretty easy read. And if you want one of these books, all you got to do is email us at office@pilma.org and just put systematic marketing book, and we'll put your address and we'll mail you a copy of it. We'll even pay for the postage. But we go into these things, and it's a lot of different systems. Like I said, there's 10 other systems I got for referrals. We didn't get into about going to other lawyers and other professionals, and we just don't have time today. But anyway, that's my spiel, Jay.
Ken, that's awesome. And you the last time you spoke, you talked a little bit about the client advisory board or the VIP dinner, and I loved when you said you do it at a Golden Corral.
Yeah.
You mind expanding a little bit on?
Sure. Yeah, I always pick Golden Corrals because
you do it really well.
Yeah, I did it at Golden Corral because it was cheap. I didn't have to pay for the room. It had a buffet, so everybody could do it. In this pandemic, it's going to be harder to do that, right? So, but you still could do a Zoom meeting and send out pizzas to everybody or whatever. You can do a lot of different things. But I'm just saying, when this pandemic is over, this is probably one of the most effective ways to get referrals from past clients, and it's cheap. I mean, Golden Corral, you get 30, 40 people out there, and it might cost you $500-$600 tops, and think about, if you got 30 people and half of them send you one case in the next 90 days before you have your next meeting, that's 15 new cases for $600. It's crazy good. And I give them some swag too, and I like to give them a little bit something extra, like more than just pens and, cup holders, and, I'd give out t-shirts. I would give out umbrellas. I'd give out stuff between 15 and 40 bucks a piece. I'd give them better than just a regular swag, and they appreciated that too, and they would wear it and use it. And so yeah, we got a lot of our Pilma members doing this, and the deal is you have to do it consistently about every 3 months, because what you'll see is a spike the next 30 days, and then it'll level off, and then it'll drop off. So you have to keep doing it every 3 months.
I love it. So you take past clients, you invite them to what you call a client advisory board. And essentially, it's a dinner. They schmooze with you. They meet your other lawyers. They go home with a bunch of, knickknacks and swag and copies of your book. And I think you mentioned like a VIP business card that says, "Hey, this is my direct cell phone number, my direct phone number," and you're really leveraging those relationships and the good work you've done for past clients, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's why I had it as number one. That really is the number one way to get past clients to refer you people. Yeah. If you got a book, it even works better. I mean, it actually multiplies it by maybe 30-40% better when you got a book.
And nobody's really tried to do it like a Zoom meeting.
They have not that I know of. Nobody's tried it yet. I think some of them are waiting to see. They thought we were going to get over this, but I think they might rethink it. Yeah. Great.
And, you touched on your books a couple times. Ken, I'll put the offer up before we finish. And I emailed that list and I got the book. Talk a little bit about how you use the books, both for law firms and now for your consulting business.
Well, I've never, even when this book was an Amazon bestseller, I've never made a dime off a book by selling it. And I've never even tried to sell it. I mean, it's on Amazon and some people buy it. But it's all about, to me, it's all about credibility, and it's a lead magnet. And that's why, you get, it goes back on your principle. I'm giving out a lot of great value information, and you know, and everybody, and I'm hoping that half the people will appreciate it and maybe follow up with me or want some more information. But it's just a really good, I think it's just a great way to set you apart from your competition, to make you the authority. People read it, they get to, you know, I always try to put a little story about me in the beginning so they get to know me, like me, trust me. And it's just a good way to show who you're about and what you're about, and you know, build a relationship. Because especially when I deal with lawyers, lawyers are very, what's the word? Very cautious, skeptical even sometimes. And because they were getting hit from so many people trying to sell them stuff. And listen, I practiced for over 30 years. I know it. It won't a week go by and get 2 or 3 people saying that I got the latest and greatest thing. It's going to get you rich. You know, but that's why everything I do with Pilma is 100% money back guarantee. Every conference, every membership, anything I do, if you don't think it's worth the money, I just give you a refund. Because, you know, and believe it or not, when I practiced law, I did this. I did injury law, contingency work, so I didn't have to return the money, but I just tell them first 30 days, if you're not completely satisfied the way we treat you in your case, you can get your file, no fees, no costs. And what happened was, that's a risk reversal. And with the same amount of money I was spending, my leads went up like 23% with that one change in one thing. So, you know, sometimes, but that's what I use it for. I digress. But the books, I think, are a really good way to set yourself apart. It's a good lead magnet, and you're giving value, and it kind of gets people to know what you're about.
Yeah, no, I love it. Someone told me very early in my career that your book is your $5 business card.
Yeah.
And it's been a great value to me to have my books, because often I'll get referred as, you know, talk to Jay Berkowitz. He's the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just meant that I hammered away for about 100 days and spent an hour or two every day just getting it done.
Yeah.
And by the way, it helps to have a deadline. So somehow create an artificial or a real deadline for yourself. That's how you get your book done.
Yeah.
All right, Ken. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, and in fact doing it again. And next up will be Steve Nudelberg. And as I mentioned before, Steve has a really amazing amount of rainmaking going on. And if you follow him, and please do follow him on LinkedIn and Facebook, every morning at 8 a.m., I get one of the first things I see is Nudelberg is live for the daily huddle. And it's a sales huddle, and it's motivational, and it's informational, and there's 400, 500, 600 people across the different devices. And there's great networking in there, and people are connecting and talking. He's doing the podcast. He's written a great book. I'm actually rereading your book, Steve. So let's see, awesome. Test your audio. We got you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Awesome.
All right. Well, let's make it rain.
So are you going to drive the presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Fantastic. Excited to be here. Congratulations to you, Jay. You put together a great panel. It's a great topic because people really need to focus on how they're going to make it rain. And so I'm thrilled to be able to share the stage with the other gentlemen and yourself. Quickly, who am I? I'm a guy 40 years in sales. I've been one of those people that invested in the people early on in my career. I have great mentorship. I have great strategic partners. I've been very blessed that the people still remain the most important part of any business, and I'll prove that out in my presentation. But I've been in lots of different categories, and I'm thrilled that at this point in my career, I get the opportunity to share what I know and how people are modernizing what they do. So, let's get in it. Let's get after it. So here's where I want to start. I want to start with the obvious. There's change. There has been change going on, and just like the Industrial Revolution changed the way people did business, we're going through a massive amount of change now. COVID added to the change. It's not the only change. So I want to go through some of the things that I think you need to pay attention to. Number one is we have clearly moved from a transactional environment to a relational environment. What does that mean? Ken just hit on it. You buy from people that know, like, and trust you, period. So the idea that, this idea of it's all about the people has never been more relevant. And as we get through my presentation, I will show you that you are no longer selling logo to logo, you're selling person to person, and the rules have changed. So I have a question for you today, and that question is, are you an investor? And when most people hear this question, you can keep going, Jay. When most people hear this question, they immediately go to the money side of things. Are you an investor? Yes, I have an advisor. Yes, I play the market myself. Warren Buffett defined it as the process of laying out capital now to receive money in the future. So it's all about a money conversation. I want to steer you to another kind of capital, of which there are many. There's financial, which is the money side. There's intellectual, it's what you know and what you're able to share. Spiritual, certainly a driving force in a time when, the world seems to be, at a spin. But the things I want to focus on today are relationship capital and social capital. Relationship capital is who you know. Social capital is who knows you. Very significant to play this game the right way because the results are tenfold. So when people invest in any program, and again, it was great to hear Ken say that if somebody invests money in him and they don't like the result, he'll give them the money back. So that's a guaranteed return on investment. You either get what you want or you don't. Well, with capital, social capital, and with relationship capital, a very different kind of return. And I want to share with you, the new metric is no longer ROI, it's ROR. ROR is return on relationship. And I am here to tell you today that the investment I have made in people 40 years ago is still paying dividends. And now there are so many social tools that allow you to do that. So I want to have a who conversation with you. I think who, besides being one of my favorite groups, who matters. And Jay, if you'll continue, you matter in the equation. For the years that I grew big businesses, one of mine was in the cell phone business. I had hundreds of salespeople. My corporation mattered more than any one individual because what we were selling was the corporation. Where we live today in the environment, you matter. And when you talk about who you are, certainly who you know matters. And that's why I have Captain Obvious up there. Who you know is very significant. And in the days when I was hiring all those salespeople, when they would come in and say, well, I know all these people, I go, great, you're going to be great in sales. It's no longer the only metric. Here's where it changed. Who knows you? Who's talking about you? Who's saying in other circles, that's my guy. That's the one who is the leader. That's the guy. Jay wrote the book on it. That's really what's the measurement today, is who's talking about you when you're not around. And there are tools that allow you to control that, expand it. And when you get to that point, the entire business structure changes. So I want to share with you what I think the new funnel is. This is an awareness game. The more people that are aware of who you are, keep going, Jay, the more people that can actually consider what you do. So if not enough people know who you are, that's a significant issue in your business, because the more people that are aware, the more people that can consider, and the more people that are considering you, ultimately the right percentage of them will actually make a decision. And so I believe, as a guy that's always invested in behavior rather than outcomes, I get my fair share of people making a decision to do business with us because we are totally focused on creating awareness of who we are, what we do, why we do it, how we do it, why we do it differently than anybody else, which has created so much more consideration. And the health of any business who wants to make it rain, whether it's an individual or a large organization, is who's talking about you, who's really, really talking about you. So this is a reverse funnel where most people are pushing stuff outbound. You as an individual have the ability to become a magnet, and that magnet draws people to you. What Jay alluded to in the morning, our Nudelberg daily huddle has attracted so much inbound opportunity that it's immeasurable. I could not put a number on what it would cost to get those kind of eyeballs, to get those kind of opportunities, and it's all organic. So, no matter what you do in life, I believe you need to have a game plan. Most people don't have a game plan of how they live their life or what they do, but certainly if you want to make it rain, you need to have a game plan. And that game plan comes down to a fundamental basic process. The greatest athletes, the greatest leaders, the people who are achieving the most in life have a guaranteed process that they own, they consistently do, very disciplined and with persistency. So focusing on those behaviors is very significant. And it comes down to a conversation between building the right strategy and then the right tactics behind it. So I want to make sure that we're clear when we talk about strategy. Strategy is really the destination of where you want to go. Some people call it goal setting. That's fine. I like to look at it. If you remember the days when we used to drive around all day long, most people had some kind of app that they used to sort of, decide how they were going to get to places. So if you've used Waze, which was one of my favorite, Waze doesn't work until you put in the destination. Once you put in the destination, depending on all of the market conditions, time of day, all the other variables, it will give you a dozen different ways to get to the destination. And that's what tactics are. Tactics are the individual, if you can hit it again. The tactics describe the specific actions that you use to get there. And so I'll get into my, specific conversation about how to make it rain. Keep going. First thing I think you need to do if you want to make it rain is understand who your dream client is. And once you decide who your dream client is, and you do that by building the right criteria. Some people call it a persona, but that could be, national footprint, the volume of the company, multiple locations, how many employees, what their favorite charity is. Regardless of what the criteria are, you build a dream client, and then you use new modern tools to get to them. And you can go, Jay, you can put them all up if you would. There's 4 of them. So these are just an example of the new rules. LinkedIn is the absolute #1 networking marketplace to build your personal brand. It is not a platform to sell on, yet 1% of the population is using it properly. Zoom, we've been teaching people Zoom for many years. In fact, I posted 2+ years ago on LinkedIn about how grateful I was to Eric Yuan, who is the world's newest billionaire. He's a CEO of Zoom. I thanked him because it allowed me to coach people at scale, geographically, no boundaries, 24 hours a day. And he hit me right back and said, thank you. And now he and I are connected. It just shows you the power of that medium is so unique. Using them together has been fantastic for our clients. People got pushed into using it this way, but I think there are tremendous benefits, and I don't look at it as a negative. Vidyard is a real interesting tool that allows you to video yourself and embed it in email. So we've modernized the way people are using email. It's not just a flat text anymore. It's with emotion, and it's with, sort of personality, if you will. And then lots of people use GIFs and emojis and stuff in their social conversations. We absolutely believe that it takes a place in a business conversation. It's light, it's fun, it shows you have a sense of humor, and it breaks down the walls and allows you to build excellent relationships. all new, all basically free, yet again, most people not using them. So years ago, we came up with something called 50 Cups of Coffee. It was an interesting program that we created very early in my career. And I had all of the people that worked for me handwrite a list of people that they wanted to have coffee with. Why? Because when you meet people for coffee, the guard comes down. You're not bringing brochures. One person's not pitching the other. It allows you the opportunity to have a social setting that allows you to understand more about each other. And in my mind, earn the right to share your story with them. And the ultimate outcome would be they either would be interested in learning more or they would know somebody who would. Well, all the new tools that happened a couple of years ago, Jay, if you can hit it again, we now make it virtual. And Jay and I, prior to, doing, when he introduced this opportunity to me and asked me to do it, we had a virtual cup of coffee. And, 2 years ago, when we started introducing that to people, they were like, wow, man, that's really cool. I've never used Zoom. What's a virtual coffee? Well, now it's become vernacular for all the people that work with us, because all we're doing is taking something that was done in the real world and we made it virtual. It's quick, it's easy. I don't have to drive a long town. I don't need to worry about somebody listening in across my shoulder. I don't have to worry about getting a table at Starbucks. The benefits are enormous. We block this into a 15-minute opportunity. We can meet and build relationships with people at scale, which is what rainmaking is all about. So as Jay said, I do a morning show. I do it with my son. My son spent 10 years coaching college football. A year ago, he jumped out. He joined the company. He's now the president of the company, and we do real content. We give away real stuff in the morning, and Ken alluded to it, and I'm sure everybody here is alluding to it. We are in a value-driven world. If you give value, people understand what they're buying from you and they buy quicker. So I welcome you to join us every morning, 8 o'clock. We usually go for 20 minutes. We have a hard stop, and it's actionable sales stuff that will allow you to grow your mind and your practice no matter what you do.
Steve, you mentioned the power of these meetings, and we talked about it, I think, yesterday, that it's not just the business that's coming to you, it's a business that's coming to everybody in these huddles. And what I love is they're like-minded people. Like anyone who's going to show up at 8 a.m. ready to, fire themselves up with a daily huddle that their sales manager didn't tell them to go to, is going to be, a pretty like-minded person for me. And I mentioned I met a guy named Larry Long Jr.
Yeah,
and he, so I sent him the Calendly Zoom connection. He set up a meeting on my calendar. We hopped on a Zoom meeting. I found a couple of things that I could help him with. He has an attorney that he could help me with. I sent him over an analysis of that attorney's website, and immediately we're doing business. So talk to me about that, the power of that group.
So for years, we had a live event called Eat, Drink, Think. And basically what it was a live networking event. It was the last Tuesday of every month. We held it at YOLO in Broward, so people from Palm Beach County and from Dade County could come and meet in the middle. And it was invite only. So we secured the right people in the room. And for our clients that we brought there, we would bring strategic introductions so that they would have the opportunity to meet in a social setting and do business. And we took nothing for it. All we did was do what great rainmakers do, is they give. They consistently create value, create introductions, create, strategic partnerships. So it validated everything that we talked about. And we just decided that why would we limit it to people who could physically go on the last Tuesday of every month? We just opened it up and said, we're going to create value every single morning. Word of mouth will take care of itself. And by the way, that's still the #1 marketing tool, is word of mouth. And so we just lit a match, boom, and watched what's happened. There are thousands of people that join us. The comments we get are amazing. And we promote within to say, hey, listen, reach out to each other. This morning, there was a guy that I actually am on the board for a company called Grape Stars. He joined. I didn't even officially invite him. He just joined. I welcomed him in, and right away, 3 other introductions of people who want to learn what Grape Stars is and how they can help. And so I'm shocked that we're the only ones doing it this way, but it's sort of a unique platform. And the one takeaway about modernizing all the things you do is the stage is unlimited.
There's and I highly recommend that meeting. And one of the things about joining on LinkedIn, I know you're also on Facebook, or I guess it's the same for Facebook. When you're on LinkedIn, you can immediately connect with people. It's really, really functional.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is that we're all swimming in the same, place. LinkedIn, which we teach in our course, is really Yelp for salespeople. So why would you listen to me telling you how great I am? Why don't you listen to all the other people I do stuff with? So the best validation is hearing you say, hey, wow, that's great value. These guys know what they're doing, much more than me blowing my own horn.
Yeah, by the way, Steve has a LinkedIn training course. I think it's next Friday.
Next Friday the 17th, yes, sir. And I'm happy to extend a benefit from you to all of your, the people that are in your world. We'll send you a link if you like, that actually is an affiliate link that offers a discount to anybody you send it to.
That's awesome. So there's a word you used, and it's like a common word, but I think it's so important. I want you to expand on it, and that's awareness. And you talked about, the huddle and the podcast and posting constant value on social media, and then people are aware of you, and then they start looking to do business with you. You want to expand on that a little bit, because I think it's so important today.
Yeah, so my big successes in my previous career, one was in the cell phone business. We were a tremendous advertiser. We spent money in like newspaper and print and radio and TV and everywhere you could think of. We marketed ourselves so people knew who we were. Then my sales teams would go out and have a conversation with someone. They go, oh yeah, I've seen you on TV. I've seen you on the radio, So we sort of did the art of war mentality, which is create air cover and then you be the ground troops that go in. The art of war is that you send in planes, they drop the bombs, and then the troops go in afterwards. That's a fundamental way to gain territory. So that's how we did it in the past. Now we can create our own air cover using social media, send in the planes, drop the bombs of value, and then people come to you. And my intention always was never to sell anybody anything. It was always to be one of the choices when they needed us as a resource. So whether it was cellular phones or marketing services or biz dev or now coaching and all the other things that we do, if you're thinking about being a coach, I want to be one of the 3 people that you call. And I'll take my chances. And that's where that's consideration is. I don't need everybody. I'm never going to sell everybody. We're not a fit for everybody. But when people inbound from all over the globe reach out and say, I've been following you. I love the way you think. I love who you work with. I'd like you to work with me. What does that look like? The first time that happened, I was like, I thought I was on candid camera. I was like, what? What do you mean? And now it happens all day, every day. And so I've realized that strictly by telling my story, documenting what I do and who I do it with, which is what social media does, it just has allowed me an opportunity to globally build my brand in a way that you could never do it any other way.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thanks for making the time. I know you got a million things always going on, and just awesome content. And thanks for being here.
My pleasure, man. You're awesome for doing this. Congratulations to the other guys as well. Alan and Ken do great work.
Thanks, buddy. Well, now I'm really pleased to present my friend Alan Margulius. And Alan spent 25 years building global business development teams. He's the managing director at Acumen Corporate Development, which helps professional services firms like law firms, accounting firms, sort of train and motivate their young professionals. and turn them into rainmakers. He's doing this, all day, every day. He's also a board member at Urban Recipe, a unique organization that delivers food security. And I'm going to ask you a question about that at the end. And most importantly, I think he's a Winnipeg Jets and Blue Bombers fan. And I don't believe I've ever had one of those on my podcast because we grew up together. As a matter of fact, this might be a picture of Alan because we were able to go to our team, the Blue Bombers in the Canadian Football League. We were able to go to their first return to the Grey Cup, and we won in 1984. It was a cold day in Edmonton, I'll tell you that. But, Alan, it's great to have you, and I look forward to your training for rainmaking strategies for law firms.
All right. Well, thanks, Jay, and thanks to everybody at 10 Golden Rules, and thanks also to Steve and Ken for their very insightful talks, and mostly thanks to all of you for joining us. Like Jay, I exited Winnipeg. I don't know if you saw behind me, but I'm living in Atlanta where it's very humid. Great to be with you. I've got a picture of the Indian Ocean behind me because it's just what I want to look at these days. And yeah, I guess you could tell I'm not a native, but anyway, here we go. Next slide, please. So I am not a lawyer. I'm instead a lifer on the sales side, but as I'll explain, I feel like I've really never sold anything. And I think you heard from the other three fellows basically the same thing. And there's no intent of being tricky here. And of course, there's different ways to get things done, but this is just how it evolved for me. And I think it's a very effective approach for lawyers to think about as you start to think about how you're going to build your practice, expand your practice, et cetera. So I come to this law firm business development, or BD as we like to call it, in a rather unconventional way. And it's something I've become really passionate about. I really feel that the lessons learned in more traditional sales organizations can be modified and applied to help lawyers make rain and consistently grow your billings. So just for a little bit of reference, more of my work has been with corporate law firms and multi-practice areas. But regardless of what you do, I hope some of what I share today will resonate with you. So just to jump right in, again, many of you equate rainmaking and business development efforts with selling used cars. And I know you're listening. I know you're here. I know that look on your face when we walk into a seminar and here I am. I'm the lead used car salesman. And I hope you're not thinking that way. But if you are, I just ask for a few minutes, take a deep breath. And let's get into the zone where you work at becoming a trusted advisor. You grow your practice, but you're staying in the no-selling zone. Next slide, please. So, a couple guys mentioned, there's no question, these are clearly unprecedented times. Many of us can really relate to this picture. If you're looking at the news and watching what's going on, it would be very easy to conclude that this chaotic world is where we are and where we're going to be for a long time. Next slide. But here's a completely different picture of the same world, obviously much less chaotic, rather, more organized and workable. So I just to be clear, I'm in no way making light of our current conditions, but for me, and I hope for you, it's really time to get back to basics, back to business, and get my brain away from the chaos. And I show you this slide really just to emphasize how important mindset is, and we'll speak more about that in a few minutes. So yeah, there's chaos in the world, but the world is not ending, and opportunity abounds if you create a plan. I think you heard everybody mention that. A plan is critical. It's not the only thing, but it's critical. And as you listen to myself and you think about what the other fellows said, think about your own world and your own business development efforts. And are things chaotic? Are they organized? You've clearly, if you're a lawyer, you have invested in your education and you got it done. Now you need a plan, a reasonable plan that you can grow with for you and your firm. So to this slide, I think this is really important. Most lawyers are by nature overachievers. And again, if you got through law school, you have skills. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, male or female, a rookie or a wily veteran, efforts to put you in a box and tell you what to do and who to do it with, they just don't work well, in my experience. So as a BD practitioner for law firms, you can imagine that being very challenging. But for me, this ends up being, a lot of what is the most rewarding part of the work. And we can help a formerly anti-BD lawyer create a practical, common sense BD plan and execute, it's really rewarding. And then even better is when we start to see you make rain consistently. So remember that you are who you are, and your personality, regardless of personality type, your commitment to education and performing at a high level, it gives you most everything you need to be a rainmaker and to be successful at business development, regardless of how social or not that you are. And it's one of the biggest misconceptions I find with professional service firms, and specifically with lawyers. So just never ceases to amaze that how many people equate business development with disturbing people, or that you have to show up at your kid's baseball game with a bullhorn and a bunch of business cards and be annoying to people. It's just not that way. I know lawyers who do it. I could never do it. I don't think any other guys on this panel could do it. It works for you, great, but there are certainly other ways. So don't put yourself in a box, and remember again that there's so many different ways to get this done. And you heard everybody say the same thing, and it's regardless of how you do it or what you do, you have to learn how to consistently build high integrity relationships. And typically the best plans focus on simple, repeatable stuff. Next slide. So today, Jay asked me to focus more on strategies for up and coming lawyers, and no question that strategies for sole practitioners, established associates and partners will be different, but the same basic principles and here's the key, the execution techniques apply. So there's so many things that you can do as a young lawyer to build relationships that will ultimately lead to revenue. If you're a speaker, speak. If you're a writer, write. If you're passionate about a committee or volunteering, join and participate. And if you're really social, organize happy hours or networking events. I know some of those things are very difficult right now, as the other fellows noted, but there are things we can still do, and soon we're going to start to get back to normal, I hope. So focus on putting yourself into good situations where you can help people solve problems and create solutions. You heard a couple of fellows mention, and this is absolutely critical, pay attention to your network, grow your network. Keep up with the people that you went to school with. Where do they work? Who's in their network? What type of legal services might they need? There's a gold mine there. So challenge yourself, find out who you are as a business developer, and do what works for you, and then repeat the heck out of it. Don't worry about having a pretty plan. Just focus instead on tangible steps you can take to actually advance relationships. And be reasonable with yourselves, young lawyers and bosses of young lawyers. I really beg you here. Overly complicated strategies will not make rain in the beginning as you're learning to become a lawyer. They take away from your primary responsibility, which is to become a great lawyer. So you don't want to get into that box. So you're respecting yourself, you're respecting your other obligations. This is not 100% of your time. Respect you, respect your prospects. We use the word vintage a lot with young lawyers, and staying within your vintage early in your career is often the quickest way to becoming a consistent rainmaker. No way am I suggesting that young lawyers can't close business. You can, but you need to follow the right approaches. So, deadlines and lawyers go hand in hand. Again, don't be thinking this is 100% of your time, but you can add a little bit of focus to business development and make great things happen. Next slide. So, this is a bit cheesy, but it's done with that intent. It's meant to leave you with this really top of mind. Most of us walk into prospect meetings. We've got good intentions. We know how to solve their problem. We know how to impart knowledge, but we haven't even thought about what might be on the client or the prospect's agenda. So that's why we say laser focused on their agenda. And it's not easy. I still have to check myself here. Am I coming at this the right way, or am I just getting ready to come in and flex my ego and tell them, what I know before I know what they need? So it sounds basic, but when you stay laser focused and keep that cheesy term in your head, it'll keep you centered. And really, it's as simple as this. When you keep your prospect's agenda at the top of your solution platform, your relationships are going to get tight, and you're working your way to getting into that trusted advisor status. Next slide. So, lawyers are generally highly skilled at research, and it's a great benefit and tool that you have. Use your skills here and then apply them to your business development strategies. This is kind of like planning for meetings. There's so much information available. Something as simple as perusing a company's website or even an individual's Facebook page, you can gain amazing knowledge about their culture, their mantras, their initiatives, their challenges. You heard Steve talk about LinkedIn. He's truly an expert. I really encourage you to talk to Jay and Steve, Ken, about other ways to use digital strategies that can work for you, not just for research, but to enhance your entire practice. So, one of the things that also comes from research that I find is really misunderstood is sometimes you get to dead ends, but isn't it better to get to a dead end before you spend valuable time and resources working on something that's unwinnable? And of course, again, also it's not always possible to research, but I think you get the point. When you're thinking about the client, you're thinking about the prospect, you're putting yourself in a position to really gain trust. So, my fellow introverts, and yes, I am one of them, this should be welcome news. This is what the no selling zone is all about. It takes away and dismantles this perceived personal selling pressure that we have, and instead, gets us focused on laying strong relationship foundations by making it all about them instead about us. So you still need to know your wares, and you need to know how to present what you and your client can do. But this is really a huge factor, especially for young lawyers as you're looking to grow your practice. Next slide, please. So this really is my favorite slide. So, imagine you're walking into a prospect meeting or dialing in these days. You've researched their business. You understand the personal matter that is going on as best you can. You're already way ahead of the game by just investing that little bit of time to get that done. So then you can ask questions and listen more than you talk. And that's when these 8 hands that you see, is it 8 or 6? Anyway, there's a lot of them. That's where you can reach for whatever resources you need, depending on where the conversation goes. And I think this is really critical. And it's one of the most important relationship development approaches that anyone can have, regardless of what you do. Your competitors will typically stay focused on themselves and what they have to offer. But again, you're working towards trusted advisor status, and listening really works. So another way quickly to think about this is to, imagine walking into a meeting as the leader of your resources. You're asking questions, and then you're reaching back for the resources that you need. Again, no pressure on you and no selling. Next slide. So, you heard, I don't have much to add to what the other fellow said. I can't say it any better. Rainmaking and business development in general is about building strong relationships, research, searching for solutions, problem solving. And when you do it this way, and this is really what you're trying to get to, it cements relationships in ways that selling never can. And authenticity matters. When people in general, prospects or not, when they see and feel that you're genuinely concerned and truly invested in their success or solving their problem, that's where your relationships are going to be very hard to break. You get to that trusted advisor role, and good luck to your competitors once you're there. Next slide. So I love this guy. I don't want to be this guy. I've been there. I'm sure you have as well. An amazing mentor once told me, I rarely see bad sales plans. I'm quoting here. I rarely see bad sales plans, but stinky execution is very common. That word has never meant the same for me, but it's stuck with me, and it pushes me to make execution the centerpiece of really any plan. We have to start with a plan. I thought Steve said it very well. If you don't have a plan, where are you going? You need a sheet of music to sing from. The plan isn't usually the hard part. And again, as my great mentor said, the plans are usually pretty good. You can build a plan. We have a 1-page business development plan specifically for lawyers, and it really helps you build in some accountability measures. It respects your time. It includes goals and action steps and resources that you need, timelines, status, metrics, all on 1 page. And we get to specific things, and we coach you how to really make this work for yourself. So accepting for extenuating circumstances, you've got your plan, and now mindset becomes the driver and really determines how well you execute. So again, we always have great intentions, but we get in our own way. So I was noticing this myself. I personally have a mindset coach that I work with. I always give him a plug. His name is Ricky Kalman. He's amazing. It's made a massive difference for me with execution, rainmaking, and life in general. And he gets me out of my own way so I can focus on my plan. So now a few words for the boss about accountability, and not much of this works without you, whether you're a one-person firm or you're managing 1,000 lawyers. If leadership is not engaged, don't expect great things to happen across your firm. Rainmaking business development efforts, they absolutely require top-down commitment and engagement. So, if you're a managing partner, you're a practice area leader, you're the glue that is needed to achieve rainmaking consistency at your firm. And then once the firm sees that you're engaged and there are some metrics built in and you're rewarding people for taking strides, then you can start to build a peer-to-peer accountability platform that's even more powerful. Nobody wants to be embarrassed in front of their friends and their peers. And the last thing on this note is hire to this. I'm a huge believer, having dedicated, aspiring business development initiatives and expectations for new hires as soon as they start. Creating good habits is a lot easier than fixing bad ones. Next slide. So I hope, you can go to the next one, Jay, if you can. I really like these little flowers. I hope I've shaken up your thoughts a little bit about what it takes to be a rainmaker. If you listen to all of us, we all talk about relationship building. Selling in traditional sense does not have to be any part of it. I'm happy to speak to any of the things I covered in more detail, but really I leave you with this. Which world are you going to live in? Think about that chaotic world or that more organized world, and focus on your mindset. You might not be able to run out and meet prospects and clients face to face right now, but use this time to build your network, research your contacts, and reach out in reasonable ways that suit who you are. So that's it. I'm going back to Jay, my fellow diehard Winnipeg Jet and Bomber fan. That's all for me.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. And great job. Of course, I'm not going to let you off without a few questions. So let me just stop this. And I love your theme. And as a matter of fact, the conversation I had with Alan really stimulated my idea for doing this webinar, because he said that, a big part of his job is helping, of course, the partners of the law firms, but as much as anything, and I hear this over and over and over, they're frustrated that the other folks in the firm don't bring in any business, and the young associates don't know how or don't try to bring in other business. So you use the term selling without selling, and I think you sort of live that. You talked a little bit about it, but maybe talk a little bit about, like, if I give you 3 targets, what's one thing each of them should be doing? The young associate, how should he be starting to do this kind of rainmaking? The mid-level guy and the senior partner in the firm.
So the junior, as I mentioned, I use that word vintage. You and I have discussed it. I think it's really important. This is no way says, and I said it exactly like this, there's no way meant to say that you can't close business. But watch your network, and it's really critical. If you went to school with someone whose father is the CEO of General Electric, you're still not going to become the lawyer for General Electric. But there may be a way for you to introduce your firm. So if you want to go up, if you have those aspirations, look at your network, see who's achieving things. But again, go back to, I thought Steve and Ken said it better than I did. It's use your relationship building skills, whatever those are, stay within your vintage. This will start to pay off for you. It's not going to help you to call the CEO of a Bank of America and try to tell them what your firm does. You're not going to get anywhere unless that person happens to be your uncle, and then bring a senior partner with you if you get a meeting. So for the middle sort of senior associate or junior partner, your network is further established. You're in more of a position to talk specifically. You're a more seasoned lawyer. But again, it's still about building relationships. And this is where I think the sort of in the middle of your career, where this research component is so important, because you know what you're doing, but we so often fall into that trap of, I know everything, no offense, I know everything and I know what you need before you even find out what they need. So you know how to execute, but you're 15, 20 years into your career, use that network again, use your skills, and really now you are in position to speak to the CEO of the bank. So you've earned your keep, and again, just keep building that network. And for the senior partner, get a mindset coach. you and I have discussed this. It's hard. It's hard to get senior partners to change their focus. They may have one or two huge clients. They don't have a succession plan. They're probably a little scared, but they really don't want to jump into BD. And this is where we're in our own way. And I find, frankly speaking, that senior partners are the ones that are more. We're more in our own way than people maybe starting their career. So I would really ask you to take a look at your one-page plan and figure out how you're really executing. Probably not as well as you might think. No offense.
What are some of the component parts of that one-page plan?
Yeah, so so that I don't ramble, let me really it's very simple. We're laying out, it's about specific action steps. And what I really like most about the one-page plan is it talks about specific metrics you hope to achieve. I want to increase my billings by 20%. I want my referrals to go up. And then it's important, how does your firm handle referrals? So we talk about specific metrics, but really what we talk about are what are the specific things you're going to do this month? What is the date that you're going to get this done by? What are you expecting to happen from here? So it is very basic. And again, every lawyer knows how to write a business plan. And if you don't, we can help you quickly, or the partner in the office next door can help you. But it is about execution, and the one-page sheet of music lets you stay focused and has some accountability built into it. Hope I answered that okay.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I heard a couple different times from you guys, and I made a note to myself that I often don't do a good enough job, is researching folks before the meeting. I'll generally quickly have a look at their LinkedIn, but I loved what you said about having a look at their Facebook and understand the corporate culture, because when I go and do my second amount of research, I'm generally looking at the website and looking at their competitors, and I get a feel for that. Like what, firms will post on their Facebook, what charitable initiatives they've taken part in and whatnot. So, can you break that down for us? Like, what should a, not a salesperson, but, a rainmaker, what should a rainmaker do before a meeting? Today we're doing them on Zoom. Are there a couple key steps that obviously looking at LinkedIn and looking at Facebook?
Yeah, so I mean, look, in the old days when you and I were getting going, we didn't have these tools. We had to rely on, hey, Dave, do you know Joe? I'm going to see Joe. And hey, yeah, I played hockey with Joe or whatever. But now you can sit in 5 minutes and just go to their website, learn all about them. As you said, most companies, if we're talking about the corporate side, most companies are going to put up their corporate mantras and what they're into. And as you said, their charitable pursuits. You bring that up, it is an unbelievable authenticity maker. That's what it does. It shows that you genuinely cared enough. You're the big high-powered lawyer. They're probably nervous about whatever is going on in their world. And you're walking in and you didn't make it about them. You know about their business, or you know about their personal matter if you can. And I don't know how else to say it. It's really the glue that starts to cement the relationship and show you as somebody that isn't just this big bad lawyer that knows everything, but you actually care about what's going on. I don't know how to say it any better. It just creates authenticity as the relationship develops.
I once paid a lot of money and bought a domain name, and I was going to start a software company that could compile that information and somehow connect Facebook and LinkedIn. Because for me, I find that a lot of times you learn this stuff, and then like I guess my question is, where do you store it? Like, how do you, if you don't have a CRM where you put in all the information?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're trying to walk out with a novel on a particular prospect. I think if you go to LinkedIn and you know how to use it properly, I'm realizing that I'm okay, but I need Steve's seminar badly. But if you use if you use LinkedIn, if you use Facebook, and if you really, to me, on the corporate side, if you're looking at a company's website, if you can just grab a few tidbits of information, and it's not a game, it's not about some sales trick that you're walking in and saying, hey, I see that you just opened a new office in Miami. Well, if there's something relevant to that, great. But frankly, if you do say, hey, I saw that you opened a new office in Miami, right away, they know you're on their side. So it's just grabbing a few tidbits. It's not a ton of time. And it's not about creating, pages and pages of notes before you walk into a prospect meeting.
When I asked that question, something popped in my head. I had a great opportunity to spend some time with Harvey Mackay. It was a few years ago now, but he wrote the great book, Swim with Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive. And he's written a couple dozen books about selling his printing company. And back in the day, they made envelopes. And he built a huge business. And one of the things he always did is he kept a list of, I think there was 100 or 107 questions. And over time, himself and the customer service folks, the sales folks would build that list and they'd try and answer all those questions. I remember he told a story about a guy whose kid got in an accident, and he heard about it. And he always talks about, those are the moments where you really build a relationship with the customer. And he checked his notes and he found out the kid was a hockey player and he was a goalie, and Harvey Mackay is based in Minneapolis. So he actually, and of course he played at a high level. He had relationships with, I think it was the Minnesota North Stars at the time.
Huh.
Went to the, called someone over there, got an autographed goalie stick by the whole team. Himself personally picked it up, took it to the hospital. I mean, that was a client for life because of what he did for his kid and because he was able to draw on this list of questions. And I guess that's part of my question for you is, what do we do as business development people, as salespeople, to sort of store that valuable knowledge we create over time?
Well, I think first of all, what resonates with me to what you said is one of the first things you started with today. Don't be expecting anything back. I mean, that's an amazing guy. The story you told, that's an amazing guy. And he's not expecting anything. He's doing something for the sake of doing something good. And just know that that's going to come back and multiply exponentially for you when you operate that way. But in terms of you're asking in terms of gathering up a little bit of research and how to use that to your advantage. Is that really what you're getting at?
Yeah, I'm saying, how do you store that information? Only even for myself, like, I have that casual conversation with a guy and find out he's a hockey fan, and I find I'm on the meeting, 3 months later, and he's like, yeah, hey, you still watching hockey, and I forget that. So if you
so what I try to do, and I have sort of a prospect file, not sort of a prospect file, I have a prospect file. And as I do research and my memory is lapsing as I age, I just make a few notes into hockey. His kid's on a scholarship to a school that I know something about. I'm looking for conversation points. And what I try to do is just to keep a little bit of info in my prospect file specific to that client. I may have done the research today. The meeting's in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to remember. So I've got that. And then I might dig a little deeper half an hour before the meeting as I'm getting ready. And again, I'm looking for authentic conversation points. I'm interested to know how'd your kid get to be a Division I baseball player? I mean, I'm into sports. I'm interested in knowing that, and guaranteed your prospect's going to be happy to talk about that. And then it's not about business. You're creating the relationship from an authentic foundation. So I would just find a way to gather up a few bits of information, not a novel, a few bits of information on your prospect that you can borrow from as you're engaging with them.
I have about 6 more questions, but I'll just give you one more good one. Because I'll spend some personal time and answer my own questions with you on the side. But for everyone else, I think you do some of this stuff so instinctually. I've known you obviously for many years, that I want you to try and break it down for the rest of us. And you mentioned, you said when you go to your kid's baseball game or soccer game, don't bring a bullhorn and hand out business cards. And I know you're tremendous at building relationships through golf. And talk to me about what's the difference between, being that jerk with the business cards and building those authentic relationships, and what are the types of things you're doing, questions you're asking, etc.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily call him a jerk. I work with a lawyer who doesn't have a bullhorn because he doesn't need one. He's the loudest human I know, and he hands out business cards, and he's unbelievably successful. So it's not my way. It's not your way. But again, I don't know how to do this any other way than to just speak from an authentic standpoint. I'm generally interested in knowing what you're all about. If that takes us to a place where business can be done, great. I often think sometimes it takes you to a place where there's nothing for me to sell or nothing me to benefit from, but I can introduce you, and I got a guy, I got a gal, as you mentioned. It's one of the best relationship building techniques and revenue generating techniques you can have when you're even to another law firm. You're recommending prospect. Are you kidding me? You're recommending, yeah, we don't do this, but these guys do. And you don't have to say after that, hey, give me a call if you need something on estate planning. They know it's done. You're there. You've done everything that you can do. So many people make that mistake. So I don't know if I've answered your question directly, but it's just, again, be authentic, be genuinely concerned, and do the right stuff.
I think the answer is there's no magic. There's no magic bullet there.
No magic potions.
So last question, because I don't want to leave this as a hanging chad for anyone who heard my intro. Tell us a little bit about Urban Recipe.
Ah, yes, my pride and joy. I've actually just rolled off the board. We wanted some new blood, but I'm still very much involved. So Urban Recipe started in the inner city in Atlanta in 1991 by an amazing fellow named Chad Hale, who moved his family. There were literally, this is right near Fulton County Stadium, which doesn't exist anymore in Atlanta, bullets flying at that point. And he set up in the basement of his church a food cooperative. So Urban Recipe provides food subsidy to low-income families. It is a co-op, so everybody owns a share. Each member pays $4 to $6 per week for a box of food. It's not a complete amount of food for the week, but it lets people focus and gives you a little extra food for lunches and things like that. It builds community. It changes lives. It is an amazing organization. I'd love to talk to you more about it. You can look up Urban Recipe online. They are amazing people. And during the pandemic, the work that they've done is spectacular. But what I think, we help them with their marketing, and Urban Recipe with the tagline of dignity tastes good. That's really what this is all about. And I think it fits with, not trying to be cheesy here, but I think it fits with what all the speakers said today. It's the same basic concepts, but in a more important manner.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for giving back. So I don't know if we will get any questions. It looks like everybody stayed with us today. So I believe there's a Q&A function. If you scroll to the bottom of your Zoom screen and just hover your mouse over it, either a chat or a Q&A function should come up if anyone has any questions. I apologize, I was greedy. I took all of the questions, but we'll see if anyone still has a question. I forgot that the basic principle is I have to say that first, and I have to have a couple questions and see if we get good answers. So we're not getting any questions in right away, or it's the chat. Well, Al, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome. And I could listen to you for another hour because I love learning how a real salesperson can sell without selling. So thank you very much for doing this. And we'll definitely be in touch. I've got a couple things to follow up with you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. And I learned a lot from the other guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENGoldenrules.com.